And then there's the Hoopla app too, Joe, which is really great. You should get that.
I've heard about that.
You'll
Yeah,
never.
I've heard about that. I gotta
Never
get
be
to my local library and get a card.
But we're not yet looking back on the books that you can get on Hoopla now. We want to talk about what's new next. And let's start off with Marvel because, of course, this week was a monumental week because this week we got the first issue of Captain America, Iron Man 1.
Yeah. Huge.
Hey, seriously, better than I expected, but there were it was again another thing that's fine. Seriously, though, the big thing that we got this week is Devil's Reign issue 1. Our Daredevil guy here. Of course, we've had Chip Zdarsky on the show. You're still coming down from that interview. How was it?
Well, so I'll tell you what. So I talked about last week how, Daredevil 36 was very bittersweet, because it's been such a great run and all those characters. And so Devil's Reign, I mean, Chip talked about it on the show. He said, this is very much going to be a Wilson Fisk story. And holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like, you get Wilson Fisk has snapped.
Okay.
And what he goes through, or what he cooks up right from the get-go, and the ripple effects that it has with anybody with any smidge of superpowers is holy shit is the only way I can describe this. And the way it starts, it's a nice slow build, and then you hit this moment with Wilson Fisk, declaring war on anyone with superpowers, and then the way it ends, and you go, oh man, this is gonna be good.
Okay,
and so he's about 5 steps ahead of everyone right now.
That's outstanding, and that makes perfect sense for Fisk, of course. What I think the most important thing for our listeners coming out of this, as much as I'm sure a lot of people have been reading Zdarsky's run on Daredevil, of course, was it 36 issues?
36 was the last one, yeah.
Of course, that just came out recently. But for those who haven't been on it on the entirety or behind, like myself, is Devil's Reign something that you think people will be able to, after the first issue, I'm saying, are people going to be able to read that if they haven't been up to date like you are?
I mean, I think so. It's sort of like, I would sort of equate it to like reading, say, War of the Realms. I hadn't read the Thor run up until that point, but I was able to pick it up as I went along. Okay. So there is a little bit of that, like catching people up in the beginning of the book. Not a ton of it, and it's not, but I think for those who hadn't read the Daredevil run, there might be some things where they're like, okay, this, I don't know, where this came from, but you'll be able to read it if you hadn't read Daredevil. Go, this is really fucking good.
Yeah. Okay. Right? Good.
Yeah.
100%. That's most important because I have every intention of being on top of this, but I wanted to hold off until I heard from you on the show. Is this something that I'm absolutely going to be able to read, or am I better off just kind of waiting? Get going on Daredevil because I've only read so much of it.
I mean, there's stuff that'll make a lot more sense had you read it, no doubt.
Okay.
Right? Especially
because there's so much with this Devil's Reign that we're seeing like there's that Doc Ock stuff with like, what was it, the not Fantastic Four, but whatever, like
the Doc Ock stuff is great, but we get a little cameo from Moon Knight.
And Moon Knight's got his own thing, his own one-off in this series too, and then there's X-Men stuff. There's a whole ton. We shared some of the
X-Men stuff was great, so it was just a quick thing. And I'm not going to say anything because it's not that it'll spoil it, but I want that moment, like when you see it, you go, oh shit, they're not fucking around.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. Like Chip. Chip's done it.
Of course he has. Speaking of X-Men, of course, we have Inferno issue 3 this week. I've been really enjoying how that series has been going. Maybe I'll talk about that on the show. It's definitely got like that kind of potential and obviously the magnitude of it and everything. But we also got Star Wars 19, X-Men Legends issue 9, F4, Life Story issue 5. I don't know why we still list that. Nobody reads that. Let's see. No, you do. No, you don't. You're lying. The Death of Doctor Strange, Blade issue 1.
I'm gonna talk about on the show just to really chap your ass.
Giant Size, Black Cat, Infinity Score issue 1, Crimson Reign issue 1, which I will get to. I'm a little behind on that. Captain America, Iron Man issue 1. I mentioned that off the top jokingly, but actually a solid first issue. Definitely a good one for the younger audience and people who are missing, Cap and Iron Man 1 a little bit more. That definitely captures the two of them and like what everybody got, how most people got to know them in the MCU. We move over to DC. I'll run through all these real quick before we get to the big book that came up from DC. Batman 89 issue 4, Swamp Thing 10, Superman Son of Kal-El issue 1, Suicide Squad 10, Arkham City The Order of the World issue 3, The Joker Presents Puzzle Box issue 5, Crush Lobo 7, which we're both reading, One Star Squadron issue 1, Soul Plumber 3, Batman 118, which you're reading, World of Krypton issue 1, which you did read?
I read it and I don't like it.
Okay,
The art just took me. The art wasn't my
Ooh.
cup of tea. Yeah, it was just like, you know what?
Mm.
No, I only read it. Like I was about to stop reading it about 2 pages in.
Really?
And it's like just the art took me
Mega
out
Man?
of it. Wasn't my cup of tea.
Long necks again?
No, not long neck. Really boxy heads, actually. The
Huh.
heads were like disproportionate to their body and very boxy. I was like, no, this is not for me.
Odd choice. But we're
Yeah.
not getting odd art at all in Dark Knights of Steel. Of course, issue 2 came out this week. Yasmin Putri is look, Tom Taylor is doing a great job with the writing of this series. It's off, first 2 issues have been absolute bangers. But Putri's art is absolutely like I don't know which is better in this series. Like she just knocks. She's amazing.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal second issue. 12 issues, I believe this series is going to run.
Yes.
So, give me all the goddamn Dark Knights of Steel I can read because it is fantastic.
Yeah, 1,000%. This was another great issue, and
And the way this one ended,
yeah.
whew.
The end. So for those who saw the ending of the first issue, we won't spoil anything in case you're a little bit behind, but get on this series right away. This is absolutely must-read stuff. The end of the first issue was outstanding. The second one is another jaw dropper too, and but there's other things that we learn in the course of this, and other characters that we see, and we're just learning more like the line of who's good and who's bad in this, which is always whenever you're dealing with something like that, like you're getting quality. You're almost always getting a quality story. We're getting that here as the lines become a little bit grayer. And of course, I love Constantine's role in all this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, we should do this, but are you sure we should do this? Like, I don't really know. Like, you're just such a friggin' asshole, John.
It was great. But you told us to do it. Yeah, but in hindsight, that maybe wasn't a good idea.
Yeah,
like, I thought that was great. And
perfect.
Just real quick, Batman 118 begins Williamson's run on
Oh,
Batman. It was
okay.
good. It was good. Yep,
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Nice. Good. Very, very glad to hear that. Because they got him doing a lot over there. And obviously this is a lot of pressure taken on this title for sure after the people that have had it. And as much as you want King to stay away from Batman, like he was there for a while, and people did like him for a time. He just kind of did himself in with the Batcat mayor stuff before even your Batcat stuff.
Yeah.
From Image this week, we got Crossover 10. What's the farthest place from here? Issue 2. The Good Agent 7, which I know you want to expand on. We'll get to that in a second. 2 Moon 7. Nita Hawes Nightmare Blog issue 2, which Joe and I got to look at Nita Hawes 1 through 3 when we had Rodney on. Make sure you guys go listen to that interview if you haven't already. Had a great time with him. Oh, this series is so good. So like I stand by what I said. Like after the first 3 issues, I'm more excited about this than I am Philadelphia. As good as in Philadelphia, I said that to Rodney, and then like the last 2 issues of Philadelphia have been ratcheted up big time. I feel like.
Yeah. I still have to read the last issue. It's in my pile, but I think he took your advice and kicked it up a notch.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. You're welcome, everybody. Lady Mechanica, the Monster of the Ministry of Hell, issue 1, which I think there's other Lady Mechanica stuff that I want to go back and look at before I give any of this a shot. A Thing Called Truth, issue 2. But I mentioned Good Asian. I know there's one other book you want to expand on a little bit more, but tell me how Good Asian was, the book that you stole from me.
I mean, it's tremendous, Nick. I mean, it's your classic, noir story. It feels to me very much like L.A. Confidential, and the crime writer's name who wrote that is escaping me right now. He wrote a series of books, and it has that L.A. Confidential feel to it. If you ever seen the movie, which is absolutely fantastic. It's just. We're getting to a point now where every issue you're getting more questions and you're getting more reveals, and it's so well written. The art is the sort of gritty noir style, which is right up my alley. So I've been enjoying the hell out of this.
Okay, so I feel even that's good. I'm really glad you're enjoying the book that I was supposed to read from day one. And actually, I didn't get to ask you, how did you like King of Spies too? I know you got to read that last week.
Yeah. Didn't read it. I told you I didn't read it.
I don't know if I believe you. I'm gonna we'll get to the truth of that at some point down the line. Definitely a book I'm gonna talk about on this show. One of the few 10 out of 10 like books I've rated on Geeks Worldwide in a while. Like the
That's
only other
wild.
one, it
Yeah.
was that one and it was from
The Conjuring.
you're such a dick. It was the death metal, like Tales of the Multiverse spinoff of Hush. I thought they did a
Oh,
perfect job. Like
right.
that,
Yeah.
that couldn't have been done any better, in my opinion. I saw no flaws in that. But other than that, I don't think I've ever given an individual issue 10 out of 10 outside of that and the King of Spies issue 1. But another book that, at least the way you're talking about it, I did not get a chance to look at this yet. But the Silver Coin, we've been really enjoying that series. But there's been some big time hits, some big time misses. Ram V got his crack with issue 7 this week, and you are very high on it.
It might be my favorite one yet.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Give me. I haven't looked at it at all. Give me where's it set?
Vegas.
Oh, okay, Vegas,
Vegas. Think of
like now.
Yeah, like
Okay.
now. Just
Okay.
think of it though. It's like it's a perfect setting for a silver coin. A guy wins it in a slot machine, and then what transpires from there and the way it ends. I mean, so what we've gotten in past silver coin issues is like you get the story and then you get this slow build into descent, right?
Mhm.
And the descent here is absolutely tremendous, right? But it's the ending, the way it ends, because what Rom V does very brilliantly in this issue is that he's telling two stories, right? You get in the story that's currently going on with the coin, and then he's doing this narration comparing it to an ancient civilization, and then how it just merges at the end is fucking brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you don't need to sell me on this any further. I mean, I obviously I want to read as much of the Silver Coin as I can because
It
it's
was
just
awesome. And the art
okay.
too. The art was great. Michael Walsh. I think he's been the artist on all the
Well,
books,
yeah,
right?
the
So
way Chip, when we talked, because we talked to him about it very briefly, but I think it's his series and he's bringing in artists
yeah.
on the series,
Although
which
it
is
still
cool.
says Michael Walsh with Chip Zdarsky, um,
Right.
and Jeff Lemire and Kelly
Kelly
Thompson
Thompson.
and one other person, but we've had other writers that aren't on that list in there. So I think it's sort of like their brainchild. He might be the ringleader, and
Mhm.
then he's just bringing more and more
It
people
would
in.
make sense just because he's the artist on this series. Like
Yeah,
he's the only person. Like we've seen a bunch of different writers,
yeah, he
but he is
kills it in this
he's
episode.
the only.
This issue.
So no eye worms.
No fucking eye
It's
worms.
the absolute worst. If we ever have Jeff Lemire on the show, we have to talk to him about that because that was a problem. Let's see. We got Dark Horse Daisy issue 1, Dynamite Red Sonja 4, which you have been reading, Aftershock Tales of Mother F Goose issue 1, which we don't get review copies, but I'm definitely picking this up.
You're gonna pick that? Okay, good. I want to
Yeah.
hear about it.
Okay. IDW TMNT, the best of Shredder. Very much gotta grab this one. Canto 3, Lionhearted issue 5, my least favorite series out there. I think it's a goddamn mouthful every time. What about AWA? Big week for them.
Big week for them. So Knighted #2, which I have to read. But the book that I enjoyed from them this week, and I wrote the review will be up on Geeks Worldwide, is The Crimson Cage #1. They've been hyping this one, promoting this one
Yeah.
for a few months now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Macbeth, but set in the world of 1980s independent wrestling. And so, as a wrestling fan and growing up as a kid, really watching wrestling for the first time in the late 80s, and being fan of the Bret Harts and the Ric Flair and and all that stuff, and then going back and watching some of these documentaries on wrestling from that time period, like it captures that feel. This is written by John Lees, the same writer of Hotel, so he can do horror, right? And
Yeah.
so, because it's Macbeth, because it takes place in Louisiana, in the bayou, you get a lot of good horror vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And while the Macbeth, might be a little on the nose, it's still really, really well told. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next issue. This, like, for any fan of wrestling and like this is going to be like a perfect book for you. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay, see, that's the big thing for me. Now, knowing I forgot that Lees was the writer on this, and obviously Hotel. We can't say enough nice things about
Yeah.
Hotel. So I do trust that Lees, whatever, like he's gonna understand the area that he's working in and gonna do a kick-ass job with it. My thing is I am just not a wrestling person. I didn't care for it as a kid. I wasn't like my dad was not a wrestling fan. I tried watching it when Becky Lynch came around because I just thought she was such a freaking badass and a nut job. In the best ways. But I just watched it, couldn't care less when I was watching it. So that if you stay at this level of like excitement over this series, I would assume you'll talk about it on here. When
Yeah.
that day comes, I want you to sell me on it big time. Like how, like as a non-wrestling fan, because I'm sure we have listeners that like wrestling and we have some that don't like me. And I'm curious, like if really like why should I give this my time other than Lee's and it being AWA? Because
Well,
those are reason enough, kind of.
yeah, well, one of the things, I talked about, in the review when it gets posted is that, Macbeth surprisingly enough translates perfectly to wrestling because
Hmm.
what wrestling is, it's storytelling. Right? Yeah, you get the action, you've got the elbows and the suplexes all and the high flying theatrics and all that, right?
Mhm.
You have the actual wrestling, but it's the storytelling, the promos, the storytelling that happens in the ring. It's soap opera for men, right?
Mm.
And but Macbeth is just this great story of fulfilling prophecies, witchcraft, envy, power, right? Wanting to ascend, to the top. And like that just meshes so well with what wrestling is and what these characters, are and what they do out and inside of the ring. So I I, I was actually stunned. I go, this is actually like it feels like this was made like Macbeth was made for wrestling in an
Hmm.
odd sense.
That's I would never have guessed that. Okay, well, you sold me on it more so. Of course, we got a little bit of time to make sure that this is the banger of the series that it started out to be so far. But I don't have much doubt about that. Of course, with it being from AWA, from Vault we have Lunar issue 1. From Skybound, of course, a separate branch within or adjacent to Image. We have Oblivion Song issue 35 and The Walking Dead Deluxe 28 out this week. And then from Boom, we talked about it. The Return of Basilisk is here, issue 5. Of course, Cullen has been kicking ass with this series. For most other writers, I would say this is his best thing that he's got going right now. But it's like he's got 2 other absolute bangers right now in The Last Book You'll Ever Read and The Lucky Devil. That's just like, I mean, Basilisk is really, really good,
They're all
but
good, yeah.
they're all so freaking good.
Yeah.
When we have him on, like as those kind of those arcs come to their end, those first arcs, I think we will have him on to talk about all of them because holy crap, we didn't get to touch base on any of those last
Yeah.
time we had him on. If I'm
And
not
there's still
mistaken.
Parasomnia,
Yeah,
which
Parasomnia
I
too
don't know
from
if
Dark
that's
Horse.
ended yet or not. That was only 4 issues, maybe 5 issues. I don't know if we've gotten the last one of that yet, but like
Mm.
at least 3 of those are absolute home runs.
Yeah, and that's another one where it's like when we're dealing with because we've seen with some of these companies, like the next one we're about to talk about has like 5 books out this week, but they haven't been doing as much recently, and the
No.
printing is obviously screwing with a lot of stuff. Obviously, we're already talking about Boom. What am I saying with Basilisk? But then we have Mighty Morphin issue 14. Of course, you got the Altarian War going on right now. Outstanding. Ryan Parrott is. Kyle Higgins did a great job with it, and I know Ryan Parrott was doing Go-Go Power Rangers at that time too. But I'll tell you what, like Parrott having his own, like being able to run Mighty Morphin and just Power Rangers. Again, I feel weird saying it because like they're the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but it's like
Right.
no, it's Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin. Having him write the two, I think it only enhances what was already like a good thing that he had with Kyle before.
Yeah.
And now this is just this war and all the twists that you've had with it. It's just like, oh fuck. And Draken's involved too, so I obviously love that. But Magic the Gathering issue 9, Buckethead issue 1. I'm sorry, Buckhead. I keep wanting to say Buckethead every time I see that, which neither of us read. But there was another first issue from Boom this week that it was must read shit. We've been dying for this one. Joe, how did you feel about Buffy, the Last Vampire Hunter?
I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. There wasn't a lot of action in it. It was definitely a slow build, but I think it laid the groundwork for what will be a really great story. I
Mm.
think Boom does a better job at this than with most, where they can give you an issue where there is a lot of sort of world building and storytelling, but not a lot of action, and you're
Mhm.
still engaged and engrossed in
It's a
it.
great call. That is a
You
great
know,
call. Yeah,
yeah, and
1000%.
so I think the next issues. I don't know how long this is planned on being.
I thought it was 12 issues. And by the way, it's
Yeah, I
Buffy
think
the
so.
Last Vampire Slayer, not the Last Vampire Hunter, for those who are going
Yes.
to try to pick that up this week. And yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, Boom, like we see with some of these companies that they'll work with properties that, we saw on TV originally, or movies, or in case of the book that you're talking about, there was a novel at first. But Boom does a really good job adapting a lot of that. I know we've
Yeah.
seen Dark Horse do quite a bit of that. Of course, The Witcher, that new series is out
Yeah.
this month on Netflix. I have a Witcher omnibus over on one of my tables in my living room. So yeah, but with Buffy, that was a really good start. Very high expectations coming into this first one. I know, actually, I'm the one reviewing it for Geeks Worldwide. What am I saying? I was getting mixed up with a different one. But I will be reviewing this for Geeks Worldwide, so you guys will be able to check out a little bit more of my thoughts over there. But I don't want to waste any more time, because I thought you laid that out well, and it's time for you to talk about the book that you have planned for us this week.